The way to think AI is, okay, like you said, I have input, output, and what kind of tools I can provide to the LLM. What in my company I can provide. It's like taking your example, if you hire a dev and you don't have a laptop, you won't do the job. Many experts nowadays are talking about many things, but they are not really experts. And so they said the wrong things, and the exec take decisions based on that and go in the wrong direction.
The trick that you made me realize is that actually ChatGPT doesn't tell you I'm going to erase your data. AI is not magic. Everything is well organized. It's like going to your home, having a wardrobe with knowing exactly in which box you have which tools, or you have a big house with everything everywhere and you don't know where to look. It's going to take you more time. You're going to be much less efficient. So I just want to be clear here. A lot of people are saying agentic AI is intelligent AI. It's not. It's just doing one task. Do we stay local? Do we go on the cloud? Do you have use cases where it's outperforming when it's on edge? I'm hearing a lot in conferences, we're moving to specialized LLM. Do you think we're moving to specialized LLM? I know that having data is cool, having insight is cool, but what leaders are looking is something actionable.
We will start cleaning our data, then we will come back later to that.
A little bit of effort, but a lot of gain at the end of the day. That's what I'm hearing. Hello, and welcome to Exec on AI, the podcast by Exec for Exec working on AI. Today we have Jean-Philippe Encausse. Thank you for being here, Jean-Philippe.
Hello, Nabila.
Hello. So you are very hands-on on tech and you help leaders on their innovation challenges. The good news is that you're really focused on AI, IoT, and metaverse, so a different angle to make better decisions. So really helping them understand to make better decisions. To start this podcast, I would love to just talk a little bit about you. Who are you? And can you tell us about how did you get started doing hands-on on tech and why people work with you?
Well, I work on innovation for past 25 years.
Yeah.
And I really believe that to make a great decision, you need to understand what is on the tech part.
Yeah.
So I try to put my hands on different devices, doing a lot of overwatch to understand what is hidden and make a better strategic decisions.
It's always better when we know what we're talking about.
The big problem is that many experts nowadays are talking about many things, but they are not really experts.
Yeah.
And so they said the wrong things.
Exactly.
And exec take decisions based on that and go in the wrong directions.
Absolutely. And that's precisely what I'm super excited to have you today in this podcast is to descript for us what are these key concepts that are not always well understood. So people understand what are we actually talking about and how can they have a better impact.
I try to help.
No pressure. It will be no pressure. So the first question, of course, let's start really basics. Can you tell us how does AI work? AI such as ChatGPT, for example.
So ChatGPT is like a conversational interface, but underneath it's an LLM. Yeah. And an LLM is kind of a black box with some knowledge from a given point, like 2023. And it's stateless. That means that you put data in and it gives out some data based on statistics.
Okay.
So there's no magic AI and smart intelligence, something like that. It's only a kind of mathematics, statistics, input, output. The input can be text, image, video, and many other things. The thing is that we are limited in the size of input. We need to make decisions on how to discuss. And I said previously it was stateless. That means that the components of an LLM, if we take the example of ChatGPT, you have multiple things into the context. You have the prompt, which is the text. You are an AI and you are very happy and so on. Some other directions to do, we will talk about later, and also conversations. If you say, for instance, hello, how are you, and so on, this is all the message are always put in the context and send the LLM. If there's no memory, you don't remember what has been said previously, the mechanics send everything back. So if you have long conversations with audio, with things like that, everything is sent each time. So it's consume energy, it's less accurate because there's lots of content. Yeah. And there's some limitations, hard limits of how many content you can put into it.
So for example, if I give a prompt, which is, I'm a business consultant, I'm trying to do this task, and I want you to give me this insight in this format. So this is my prompt. Then I will be using a chat to converse with it. I will ask it to rework it or to improve it. This is the chat, the conversation. And the third thing you mentioned is the tools, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so what you're saying is that there's a history because every time I'm chatting with the algorithm, it actually resent everything I've sent, even the first prompt I've sent.
Yes.
Okay. So that's why it has this limit of
Yes.
capacity for
And
memory.
so arise some limitations. For instance, let's say you want to talk about a PDF.
Yeah.
And you upload a PDF of 500 pages.
Yeah.
500 pages is a lot of words in the context also. So it's too large to be handled. So developers have to find a workaround in order to pick the right elements of the PDF.
Okay.
And so that's the reason why we call about tools, because tools and RAG helps to do that, but it's a hack. It's because you have a very small window of conversations that you have to find a hack and workaround to chat with your data.
Can you explain how it works? The RAG, I know a lot of big companies are using it already, but it's not that common.
Well, big features of LLM that is coming nowadays in most of LLM are tools. So in a nutshell, what I said is you put data in and it gives data out. The problem is when you talk to ChatGPT, ChatGPT can call, for instance, internet, gather data on internet and answer. This is a kind of tool. You say to ChatGPT, if you need to query the web, just ask these functions or this tool, and it will give you back the data. And so the LLM decide if it will use or not the tool. And this is how it works. And tools can be anything. It can be just querying the web, but also looking into a file or also calling another LLM. There's no limits to that. So it's very powerful. For instance, when I have my PDF, I put it in the context. So I can put it in kind of database, cut it in small parts, and look into the right parts for the LLM. And so how it works, it's a tool. And we say to the LLM, okay, you have a PDF. If you have query very specifics to given parts, ask me, and I will give you the paragraph or the page that is related to your questions.
Okay.
So the LLM is very dumb. You just take data in and decide, okay, I need more info. So I will query the RAG to get the data and send it back. And the RAG, there's no magic again. How it works, we take a file, cut it in chunks, and each chunks has some meanings, some semantics. And so we compute what we call an embedding. So it's semantic representations of the paragraph. Let's say you have 500 pages, maybe you will have 3,000 chunks with a given semantics. When the user asks the LLM, oh, can you tell me about the latest financial level of stuff? The LLM will say, I should look into the PDF. So it will create a query about financial results year 2025, for instance, and then compute a semantics value representing these sentences. And we compare this semantics value with all the semantics of all the chunks. Get the 3 chunks closer and send it back. So if I come back to the LLM, we have the LLM and our context window. So the questions from the user, and now the 3 paragraphs that are interesting and that are small enough to come into the context. And so the LLM can now compute with this kind of informations and the questions and a correct output.
I love this visibility, this understanding of tools as you have like your data in, data out, that all it does, it's easy. And then you connect other tools such as the RAG. And I love about this that first you're able to visualize a concept. So it's not about wording. For example, you were saying if you have different languages and look for one specific word, you will not be able to find it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you look for an understanding of concept, then it's different. I love that. And the second point is saying, actually, instead of loading the whole PDF, you're just going to load a small part of it. It gives you more history. Because the trick that you made me realize is that actually ChatGPT doesn't tell you I'm going to erase your data. It just erases it because it doesn't have any data anymore.
You can trigger it. In fact, you have in the interface of ChatGPT, you have buttons, search the web and look into my files and so on and so on.
Yeah.
And if you say it, it's the same things I like clicking on the search the web. You say, look in the web, it will trigger the tool according to your requirements.
Okay.
And we were talking about this kind of semantics because you can plug a database as a tool. But the problem, as you said, it's most databases that are not multilingual.
Yeah.
So for instance, if I say in English, I'm looking for the financial report, and in the database, there is a wording like rapport français. The problem is that it doesn't match word to word. So you need to transform these kind of sentences into a semantics representations in order to find the right semantics. And it is the power of LLM, and it's also an LLM that create these semantics.
We'll come back several times about the fact that AI is not magic. One thing I wanted to deep dive a little bit more is when we are saying that data has to be structured and the power of the structure. And so you were mentioning that when you're looking for data, based on where your data is stored and how it is stored, it will not work as well as for other companies. And you made it so clear for me when you say, if you have a clear structure in your business, a CRM with all your customer data, the workspace with all your documents, and a CMS for all your website documents, everything is well organized. It's like going to your home, having a wardrobe with knowing exactly in which box you have which tools, or you have a big house with everything everywhere and you don't know where to look. It's going to take you more time. You're going to be much less efficient. So I love this visibility about that. I know we also talked a little bit in preparation about agentic AI. Do you want to talk more about that?
Yes, in fact, a tool can be anything.
Yeah.
So we can call a database, we can call the web, we can call a RAG, and we can call another bot.
Yes.
Here comes the kind of agentic architecture. And it really matters of how you structure your agentic architecture. The real questions, it's not new. Like I said, tools are from the beginning almost of the LLM. But for normal people, LLM AI is ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is only chat.
Yeah.
They don't think that ChatGPT can perform actions. And so that's why in 2024, we talk about AI or generative AI. And now we are talking more about action and
Agents
and things like that. But in fact, it was already there. It's just a wording for that.
Okay.
How it works. In fact, it's one way to explain agentic. Let's say a super LLM can do everything. So it can look into your financial reports and also look into, I don't know, your CRM and things like that, because if there is many features and actions, our context is very big. So a way to do that is to split it in multiple agents. And so we have some kind of master agent. The best example to do that is when developing applications. You have the manager, the LLM you're talking with. And you say, I want you to create an application, a website, and so on. Then the manager may talk to a designer, a developer, database manager, and things like that. And so they will just discuss in natural languages. There is some specific languages, but let's say it's natural languages to perform a task. And so each one has his small context, his small tools, very dedicated to his work. And so it works better.
So one agent, one task, and then different agent talks to each other.
Yes. Let's say meta task, for instance. The designer may be able to generate HTML, generate image, I don't know. But it kind of discussions. For instance, the designer may need a tool to generate images, but the developer LLM don't need to. So you split the responsibilities, so it's easier.
So I just want to be clear here. A lot of people are saying agentic AI is intelligent AI. It's not. It's just doing one task.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we were thinking about how it's magical and so on, but in fact, it's just splitting the task between agents in order to be more efficient. And it seems it works better. The big question nowadays is, how is your architecture? Does your manager talk to each one and say, okay, as a designer, you have to do that. A developer is not. Or maybe you can spread orb. Say, hey, I have to do that. Just pick what you need to do and do your work. This time you spread your questions and all LLM may do the work. So the way everyone discuss, maybe, for instance, the designer would need to discuss with the developer. And so it's communication between two LLM. So the links between the agent really depends on the architecture. And it is a topics of nowadays of 2025 of what is the best architecture.
And it's a big topic that we're
Yeah.
definitely not going to solve now. But I feel this is really inspiring because this is the main reason why people feel so frustrated. We have this expectation that AI will work by itself, that it knows what we want and will be able to do it. What you're saying is really clear. AI is only data in, data out. So it answers what you're actually asking it to do. And so the more clear you will ask, the more clear your answer will be. But what I feel when listening to you is it's actually like in a business, you know, when you hire a dev, a content manager, a sales and a marketer, and you just bring everybody and say, hey, work together. A little bit like, hey, here's all my data, work together. Yeah, you might have a result. Now, is it going to be the same result as if you're doing a training, like sharing a vision, explaining where you want to head to and giving context to your team or to the AI? Well, basically, the answer will be totally different. Just to take back this example that you were sharing, if you have different languages, if you don't tell your AI, I want to translate everything in this language and then work with this only language, or actually I want you to work on semantic and have a result based on that. If you're not owner of the logic that you want to have behind your data, well, you don't know what output you are going to take. Does it make sense?
Yes. The way to think AI is, okay, like you said, I have input, output, and what kind of tools I can provide to the LLM. What in my company I can provide.
Yeah.
Maybe you will have to work on your data. Maybe you will have to work on your assets in order to put the tools available to the LLM. Taking your example, if you hire a dev and you don't have a laptop,
Yeah.
you won't do the job. And so you have to think about, okay, I will have a laptop and it will be a Mac or a PC because it's not the same side effects and things like that. And it's not a magical, I asked for something and
did it work? Yes. I love that. So long story short, it's basically making sure that the data is structured and easily available, and then training your tools, training your agent, training what you want to do.
yes, iterating.
Yeah.
So because there is a lot of hallucinations in the LLM and you'd never know. But it's like any project. You want a project to do something very specific and your users are not sure what they want. So you have to iterate and say, okay, the LLM is giving that kind of content. Is it okay for your users or not? And maybe you will have to change the prompt, the tools, the data, or the architecture.
Yeah. I'm just going to live with on the logic, on the structure. Super clear. I'm going to move to the next question because I feel like I could talk about this for hours. Can you tell us more about Alembic framework?
Since 10 years, I love to develop tools using low code because it's very visual and easier to handle. And LLM because it's conversations and it's a flow of conversations. So when you receive a message, you can go in multiple pipe in order to provide an answer. So using a visual tool is very easier. And so that's why I build Alembic, which is a framework open source on top of Node-RED, which is an open source low code development platform. And it helps you quickly put an LLM, put a chat, enable everyone to discuss to each other. And I then put this LLM into a desktop application so you can use it in the cloud on edge.
Exactly.
Because sometimes you need to put it on the edge.
Which brings us to our next question, because this is a big deal. I remember for digital, that was a big thing. Do we stay local? Do we go on the cloud? Do you have use cases where it's better, like it's outperforming when it's on edge, on local?
Well, it's matter of strategy and architecture.
Okay.
First, when I said at the beginning of the LLM, when you put input data, output, you pay for the amount of data you send.
Absolutely.
And you pay for each request and the size of the request. If you call a tool, get the data and put it in the input. So you pay one, you pay a second time.
Yes.
So imagine many LLM talking to each other in many directions. You're paying all the requests in every direction. So sometimes it makes sense to do it locally and paying electricity rather than put it in the cloud. So this is one main reason why you would prefer some local stuff, prepare data, things like that.
Yeah.
The other reason is privacy, because even if you have a legal contract with Microsoft or other companies like that, a US company, normally it's okay. But if your content is military or health, the US government might be able to see your data and use it. It's very specific, but something to keep in mind regarding your business.
Oh, yeah, I think it makes sense. Just in terms of agility, delivery, it's the same, like working on edge or working on cloud.
For Agentic,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think in the future, yes. In a nutshell, tools and so Agentics, it's the same thing because it works the same way. But if you're on a computer, you can do more stuff in Agentic. For instance, remote controls the mouse, the browser, and do what we call automations on the desktop. For instance, I have complex applications and I want you to create an environment clicking on each button. It's possible on the desktop, and it's one of the future of AI on the desktop is bringing tools to applications.
Ah, sweet.
So you will be able to say to an AI, I have a Photoshop, my podcast, and so on. Please use the tools and do that. And because softwares will expose their capabilities, the AI will be able to use it. And in that case, you don't need cloud. You need access to your computer.
Yeah, makes sense. I'm going to go back to a use case everybody is using. So there's a question. I've been seeing people doing chats like in the same conversation and other people doing new conversation, like new chats.
Yes.
What's the best practice?
Well, if we take the explanation at the beginning, we have a context window where we're talking, putting input and output. This context window is drawing, going. If you're talking about another topics, absolutely not related with the previous one, you better start a new conversations because it will send all back.
There you go.
So, for instance, we're talking about a PDF.
Yeah.
And now you're asking about something else. You don't want the 500 pages of PDF.
Absolutely. Okay, so long answer short, every time you have a new topic, new conversation. Yeah. Amazing. I would moving to, this is a debate I think we got to start here, but I'm hearing a lot in conferences, we're moving to specialized LLM. Do you think we're moving to specialized LLM?
I think it's a question of the wording.
What does it mean, actually?
The CEO of NVIDIA talked about that at Vivatech, and I think it's kind of understanding. In fact, like we said, we need an LLM that are manager, developer, and so on. So in a nutshell, it's specialized LLM. And I think this is the meaning he had in mind. You will build a very specialized LLM with prompt tools and so on to do a specific task. And maybe if you are very specific companies, calling a RAG, for instance, you pay twice the request. If it's your core business, you don't want to do that. So at Vivatech, I think it's LVMH that train an LLM to provide answers with the tone of voice of the brand.
Nice.
First steps, RAG, LLM, answers, and so on, but you pay it twice. So you can fine tune your model with question answered and have a very dedicated LLM. Okay. So it's the best way to create a model, retrain the model each time you do it. One thing that is very interesting when you do that, it's you create your own LLM based on the general LLM. Okay. So it's a brand asset. Okay. So your intellectual property is somehow inside this new LLM, and another competitor won't use it. So it's kind of creating a environments for every specification you want to create, kind of. So what I mean by that is you will have a LLM, which is at the basic generic. Yes. So LLM is generic. Then you will take this LLM, you will specialize it with specific tools, specific actions and prompt. So now it's a little bit more specialized. And then if you want to use it with prompts, then your prompts has to be specific to this tool. So if you have this environment for one specific topic, let's say, for example, cooking, this LLM will be generic, but then the tool will be specific to cooking and the prompt will be specific to cooking because all the context will be consistent and make sense. And so the advice is to say, if tomorrow you want to talk about automotive, for example, you just create another LLM with the same generic LLM, but now your tools will be specific to automotive and your prompt will be specific to automotive. Yeah. You could use the same to do prompt for cooking and automotive in the same one, but it will mess it up. So it's better to have two different. If you do both, you double the context window and it will have to decide according to a question from the user. Yeah. is it a cooking questions or is it an automated
Yeah,
questions?
exactly,
So
exactly.
it's messy and it will complicate it for him, and the output will be less accurate.
Amazing.
And so the question underneath is what generic LLM you will use, and this time it really depends of your use cases. Since maybe cooking is better to have a smaller LLM because it will be embedded on some fryer or something like that. Where automotive, it will be on a robot. It really depends of the context. And
Yeah.
so the choice of LLM is also part of the
Makes sense.
component.
Makes sense. And I love the example you were giving about LVMH, who is a kind of fine tuning, if it's the word you were using before. The more you will make it specialized to your brand and the more assets you're building for your brand as well. A little bit of effort, but a lot of gain at the end of the day. That's what I'm hearing. Okay, cool. Awesome. One thing you also said that kind of sat with me is you were saying it's not a new concept, this LLM visualize. It's more a question of architecture. So I feel like a lot of conversation we have around AI is a lot about architecture at the end of the day.
Yes, it's really a matter of tools, a toolbox.
This is live.
So the big question is you have a toolbox and how do you use it? So you have
Okay.
the kind of architect, know how to make stuff.
Okay. Okay, because we have a beautiful environment with us, we're going to talk about an exciting topic, right? AGI. They have an opinion about AGI.
For me, AGI is a phantasm to people who
Okay.
wants some kind of super intelligence.
Yeah.
all of things. But I'm more focused on what we are doing nowadays. And nowadays, LLM are very impressive.
Yeah,
But
already.
focus on very specifics, can be customized, and it's not AGI. Even if they work together to build a product, it could be very advanced. It's not AGI. AGI is more close to human, taking decisions, being creative, and things like that.
Yeah. So basically, we don't have the ability yet to have robots who have the adaptability of a human being, but we're already able to do amazing stuff. And let's focus on what we need to do, right?
Yes, and we already able to have robots doing very specific tasks.
True.
So nowadays, for instance, your LLM will replace a lot of businesses for white collar. Tomorrow, it will be blue collar because you download the LLM into the brain of a robot. You train the robot not to code, but to paint, change, repair stuff, and it will be able because it's the same thing. Tools are its arms, and it will use it to do stuff.
Much more people impacted. We're going to be talking about it's quiet again. So a serious topic, regulation. And I know it's close to your heart as well. You've been at this CyberLex conference and discussed how regulation has already been overtaken by AI. So my question to you is, what stances do you have or do you recommend for leaders?
Well, there's two things. First, when you start a project in large company, you need to involve the regulations, the lawyer, because it will frame what you can do and can't. And it's mandatory generally to start a project.
Okay.
The second part is a European Act. It was the topics of the CyberX, which is a conference, is already late. And I think more focus to when you have to decide, you ask, what should I do? And so legal regulations try to give hints. For instance, you have to put cookies on your website. The problem is, do I really need it? Will it fix the problem or not? And so regulations should, in France and in Europe, be more focused on the impact of AI. And if you have a high impact, you really need to be ready. If you have low impact or if it's a proof of concept, I think it's not that important.
It really depends on your business.
It really depends on your business. European law should focus more on the side effects than how to make things right.
So for cookies, for example, businesses were wondering if I put it, that might have a negative impact for my business.
Yes.
And so I think we have the similar question today, like, am I going to be investing a lot of money for something that is not needed because it's already late? And so in that context, I'm wondering, have you seen some governance framework that you would recommend today to control risks and to have a better use of AI? Is there any best practice, basically?
No, there is not best practice, but everyone is trying to be ethics and to follow good sense to do stuff. And for instance, if you are alone testing stuff, it's a limited risk. If you are doing something at scale, obviously you're doing something maybe wrong and you should frame what you do.
So it's also on how many people are you impacting?
Yes.
And is this a real risk as well?
Yes, yes. And then you can see in the European law if what you're doing is okay or not, because there is always some workaround about a given law. But
Yeah.
the heart of the questions is, should I do that? Should I get all those data of people in order to influence them? No, you shouldn't. And so it's obvious, but because we are thinking about what you can do in terms of it's in the rules, you don't think about the finality.
So think about the finality and think about how big the impact is. Makes sense. An exciting topic now to keep moving the ball. We're going to be talking about monitoring, and I know you have a really cool newsletter that you're doing. I know for guys like you, it's super important to stay up to date with everything that's happening. So I'm wondering what tools, what methodology are you using today for your newsletter?
Yes, in fact, to keep hands on about the technology, I try to look about many topics from business perspective to technical perspective.
Okay.
Put my hands on and try to provide in my newsletter some feedbacks on proof of concept I did. So it's the heart of the topics. And to do that, I read lots of RSS stream, decide what articles are interesting or not, which signal, and then I have a workflow then for what, which helps to, let's say, transform each article to a resume that gives summary of using AI. So my job is to say, okay, this is interesting, this is not interesting, and so on. And then AI will build the newsletter. So I get lots of time to make the right newsletter in the perfect environment.
It's a really interesting approach because instead of taking just one RSS feed and say, I want a sum up of all these newsletters or all these articles or blogs, you're actually going and making the selection of what you find interesting.
Because there are too many information. So I have 300 RSS streams, and inside these 300 RSS streams, maybe there is a 10, 20 article for each. So it will be too large. And so you need to curate the correct weak signal.
And when you say you just click, you created a whole process around that to easily select? Or
I use a tool that let me click and then follow process.
There you go, yes.
I select weak signals because if you want to know what's going on in tech each week, there's many experts that will provide the main topics. So I try to look into the really weak signals.
Okay, amazing. And I know that having data is cool, having insight is cool, but what leaders are looking is something actionable. So my question is, what practical steps could you recommend for leaders to transform insights into actionable steps?
Well, there's two ways to do that. For me, you can't see the future. So I try using Overwatch to see the trends and see the use cases. In that way, you see what's coming. And the other stuff for leaders often say, my boss wants to do AI. How can I start? Or I need an AI project because it's a trend. How do I start? And often, if you want to start like that, the first steps is to say, okay, what are my assets? What are my topics? Frame all the topics and look if there is some return on invest of these topics.
Okay.
And then you can prioritize and say, okay, we'll start with that, see if there is some value and how we can answer to that topics using technology. If you have the right connections, you can find experts. Maybe you should start small and then scale if it works. But the interesting part of the process is you will see, okay, I have a very good use cases. I want to start, and you will see that you don't have the correct data. And so maybe you will crush this project and say, okay, we will start cleaning our data. Then we will come back later to that.
And there's a approach I really enjoy that we've been discussing in previous episodes. You don't have to clean everything at once. Like you don't have to make a big project just about cleaning because it's going to take time and a lot of money. But just thinking, I have this project, I need this data set, and I'm going to start cleaning this data set to start with. So that's a really pragmatic way of doing it.
And always discuss with the users because the way you structure your data really depends of the output you want.
Yeah.
So you need to make it clean and always with the user in the loop in order to check that the result is what they want.
Amazing. I'm going to finish with my last question. My last question for you, Jean-Philippe, is Which signals are particularly promising in your opinion? What have you seen lately that you feel
It really depends of your business. So I would say, because we are talking about AI, inputs could be video, audio, images, and things like that. And I think all media companies, movies, and things like that are really going to be crushed with all this AI generated. For instance, yesterday, Midjourney announced a way to generate video from images. So again, another solutions to create video at low cost with a very good quality. So in the short steps, I think media and native user experience is one key forward.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for bringing so much clarity into this complex topic and with enthusiasm. So it's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much, Jean-Philippe.
Thank you.